A very common question that I've been getting a lot lately is, what tools did you use that helped you pass the ANCC Psych NP board certification exam? And honestly, it's a very good question because with so many resources out there, it's really hard for you to choose. And in this video, I'm going to be going over 3 tools that were critical for helping me pass my ANCC Psych NP board certification exam. So stay tuned. Welcome back to another episode of Life of a Psych NP. If you are new to this channel, let me formally introduce myself. I'm Darty. I'm a board certified psychiatric nurse practitioner, and in this channel I go over several different subjects to educate the public about mental health, ways to improve your lifestyle, topics related to nursing, nurse practitioners, and specifically psychiatric nurse practitioners like myself. So if you are interested in any of these topics, feel free to subscribe. Make sure you like this video because it helps so much with the algorithm and it helps keep me motivated to keep making more videos for you guys. And if you haven't followed me already, follow me on Instagram at LifeofaPsychNP. So you probably clicked this video because you're interested in figuring out what were the tools that I use in order for me to pass my ANCC Psych NP board certification exam the very first time. Yes, you heard it, the very first time. And honestly, there's so many different resources out there. There's so many different tools that you can utilize, but I figured I'd mention the 3 main tools that helped me pass the very first time. And in this video, I'm going to be going over those tools. So before we get started, I wanted to talk about the actual test within itself. As you know, when you look at the test outline, there are 5 different domains. And within these domains, you have to understand the actual information. So when you're thinking about studying for the exam and preparing for the exam, you have to think about content. So the biggest thing is content and understanding the content within itself. And not to mention, not only you need to know the content, but you need to understand how you take certain questions and how you actually answer the questions. So the biggest thing for me in preparing is understanding the content and being able to take a lot of questions. That's the biggest thing, is because you have to be prepared to take a lot of questions. When I took the exam, it was about 300 questions, 275 or 300. I know they reduced it now, but for the most part, taking questions is key. So think about that. So you have to understand the content and you have to think about actually just doing set amount of questions every day just so you can build up the stamina, because you don't want to go through this whole exam and just die out at the end and just rushing through the questions because you're just so tired. So you always have to think about that. So without further ado, let's go over the 3 tools that I utilize to help me pass my exam the very first time. So let's go. So the very first tool that I utilized that helped me pass my ANCC exam the very first time is the Nursing Pocket Prep app. So the Nursing Pocket Prep app is an absolute game changer because it gives you best of both worlds. When you're thinking about best of both worlds, you're thinking about content and you're thinking about questions, and this app does that. This app has an actual section geared towards psychiatric nurse practitioners specifically. There's not that many apps out there that do that, but this app in particular gives you specific questions for this exam, and it breaks it down by each domain. And like I mentioned earlier, you have to focus on the 5 domains, and this app does it. So not only does it give you questions geared towards psychiatric nurse practitioner, but it gives you 600 practice questions. Yes, you heard that correctly, 600 practice questions. There are not that many apps, even books or even guides out there that actually give you 600 questions. So you have to think about the importance of these 600 questions with its rationales on your studying. So not only was it helpful for taking a large amount of questions during a longer period of time, but it was also helpful whenever I felt like I didn't have enough time to do questions, but still able to do it on the go. And the beauty about this app, it actually has features that are geared towards that, because as nurses, we're all busy. It gives you a question of the day feature, and it also gives you a feature where you're able to take 10 quick questions, and they can kind of do those questions real quick, and you'll still be able to get the content in because it gives you rationales for that quick 10 question quiz feature. So you have to always think about what you can utilize whenever you're on the go. Yes, we want to study for longer periods of time, but let's face it, sometimes we're not able to. And I was able to use that quick 10 quiz feature and take quick questions and just kind of get it out of the way to get my day started. So now you must be thinking like, what if you don't want to be on your phone and utilize this app? I got you on that one. So this app actually has a web portal. So through this web portal, you'll be able to see a larger screen, obviously a computer, and still be able to access all of the questions and still be able to access all the rationales for the questions. So you can be able to utilize it both on your phone and on your computer. And this is why I felt like this was a huge game changer, because it's either one or the other. You're either having to do everything on your computer or having to do everything on your phone. But with this app, you can do both. So it's a game changer for me. Definitely utilize this tool. So the second tool that I utilized to pass my ANCC exam the very first time is the ANA Purple Book. So the ANA Purple Book is key because it gives you content. And like I mentioned, it's either content or questions or both. So when you want to understand content, this book gives you content. It goes over everything that we learned during school, but it condenses it into a little book, and it gives you opportunities to learn about certain areas. And it also goes over the 5 domains. So when you think about the domains, you have to think about those 5 domains, and it's included in the book. And it condenses everything for you. So it's not necessarily all fluff. And there's certain areas in the book where you feel like it's fluff, but you have to focus in on those areas. I would specifically recommend studying chapters 2 through 8 multiple times. I probably read through that book 3 or 4 times, but I read chapters 2 through 8 probably close to 6 to 7 times. So I definitely recommend studying that part. So my final and third main tool that I utilize to help pass the ANCC exam the very first time is the Fitzgerald Audiobook. So this is a game changer also, especially when you drive a lot like I do and you don't necessarily have as much time to sit down and study because I have kids, so let's face it. So during that time, I felt like I drove so much throughout the day, driving to clinicals, driving to work, driving back home, and I needed to use all that free time. So a huge game changer that I had was actually listening to Fitzgerald Audiobook. So when understanding the test, you have to think about, like I said all the time, you have to understand is content and questions. So during the Fitzgerald, I was understanding content. Not only was I kind of reading it during the Purple Book, but I was actually listening to this audiobooks and understanding it and hearing it and processing it that way. Obviously, it didn't necessarily align to each other, the Purple Book and the audio, but it still gave me enough content and helped me understand certain rationales and certain information that I must know in order for me to pass this test. And at the end of the day, it's still providing me with one of those 2 main things. What did I mention? Content and questions. So when you're understanding what are your tools that you're going to utilize, and this is something that I was utilizing with content, and I didn't want to spend too much time on so many different resources, so I focused in on 3 different resources that helped me out the most. Understanding the content through the Purple Book and Fitzgerald, and obviously through the Pocket Prep app, I was understanding content when I read the rationales. And I was also taking questions. It has questions in the back of the Purple Book, and they have 800 practice questions through the app. So I definitely recommend all 3 of these things. I think a culmination of these 3 things are the things that helped me pass. Not only did it help me pass, but it also helped my wife pass. My wife focused in on these 3 things, focused in on what she needed to understand, because let's face it, you can know all the content in the world, but if you can't answer the questions, then you're going to be screwed. But let's face it again, you can know how to answer questions, but if you don't know the content, then you're kind of screwed that way. So it's one of those things, you have to understand both sides of it. You have to master both sides, which will end up helping you the best in order for you to be successful. Well guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful in understanding what the tools I use to pass this exam, because let's face it, this exam is a tough one with so many different questions and so much content to learn. These are the things that I focused in. Just don't grab every single app or every single book out there trying to figure out how you're going to study. Just focus in on the main ones that'll provide you the content and that's going to provide you questions, and I promise you, you'll do great. As always guys, have a wonderful day. Until next time, bye!